The pier, the pier is known for a lot. It's got secrets and it's got things that people probably wouldn't tell you on audio or in general. It's a hotspot, and mostly it's a hotspot for young adults. Lately there's a lot of teen boppers, a lot of 13-year-olds.
Yeah.
But I personally think it's the pier.
So when you're hanging out over at the piers, it's because it's outdoors and because it's a park and because it's been gentrified and safe. It's a place that you can find a new certain group of people that are going to make it their home close enough to this because of what everyone did before them. It's not like they've just discovered this pier and go, hey, this looks like a great place to hang out. It's a great place to hang out because for 40 years, people were making sure that if you were on the pier, you wouldn't get killed.
What yours is? The atmosphere and be free without people bashing us or, things like that. Being us, lesbians.
Because this is like the spot for gay people. Like, I can't go to Harlem and chill there and be myself. This is where I'm most comfortable living my lifestyle.
It's 2010, so 40 years ago, when this was the epicenter of gay liberation, and it became a gay ghetto, and then as the gays became more accepted, you're less wanting to ghettoize yourself. So you move out, but like the gays and the artists that cleaned up Soho, they did that to Chelsea, and then, they did that they're doing it now to Hell's Kitchen. So they just keep moving to the next cheapest area, if you will. Because if you think about it, take the ugliest house in the most expensive neighborhood and make it the prettiest house, and there's the gays.
I think that now with sort of the way in which the pier has become very much a domestic space, a family space, with curfews for closing, cleaning it up. It's very similar to 42nd Street, for example, when they got rid of the porn theaters and they got rid of sort of the nightlife and brought in this whole Disneyfication or Disney mentality. You see that same sort of ideology occurring down on the piers. So now what you have is a movement from hanging out on the piers, which still occurs, but more so in specific areas. Like, there's definitely a very specific sort of quote-unquote gay area where people know, okay, this is where the queer people are going to hang out. The ball culture, I think, is always going to have a relationship to the pier, just because that's always been historically a space of congregation for queer youth and queer youth of color specifically.
Well, the ballroom scene, the reason I like it, because as soon as you get better, it's like it's like Hollywood.
Yeah,
you understand? If you can't get fame through the world, then you're gonna get it through somewhere. That's what the ballroom scene does. It's gay Hollywood.
The ball culture is tied into cultural productions of African American and Latino gay men through the performance of gender in gender competitions.
For me, it's a way for me to express myself. Like, if I can't talk to somebody about it, I'll either walk a category or something to express myself.
I definitely do think that there are ways in which there are instances of self-segregation. And it's tied into the politics of identity and the politics of how people choose to represent themselves. A bear, constituted like hairy gay male, who is invested in sort of a certain performance of masculinity, both in terms of physical appearance, but also in terms of attitude, may or may not want to, or historically has had a particular type of relationship with someone who's particularly queenie or is particularly effeminate, because that they're not performing queerness in the same way.
Everybody always hates somebody. You know what I mean? So you got the lesbians that hate the gays, and the bears that hate the pretty boys, and this ones who hate this ones, and the young ones who hate the old ones. So there's never going to be a cohesive, because there's always that West Side Highway. It's always dividing.
I wouldn't necessarily say that the West Side Highway plays so much a physical barrier, but what's really interesting is that when you're walking west towards the West Side Highway, especially if you walk, let's say if you take Christopher Street all the way down to the West Side Highway, what you still have are the DVDs and like the sex video stores. So in a way it does, you're right, sort of operates as this physical barrier that sort of, stops the movement of the community, but it's also because of the stores that are there.
It's like I said, I just think it's sort of sad that there's a division. And when you look at all the neighborhoods in Manhattan, it's the same thing. There's different gentrification of each neighborhood, and there's different subsect of the gays in each one, and you can easily see the differential, in Chelsea, they're all Chelsea boys, and they're all, buff and cute and tan and young, and then when you get to Hell's Kitchen or Helsey, you're sitting there and you're like, okay, well, they're all, pseudo hipsters with beards and look ridiculous, but, that's what hipsters do now. And then you look down here and it's just a normal cross-section of age.
Christopher Street and the Pier are both very much, I would say, youth spaces, because there really isn't a place for youth to hang out. And older queers can, you can go to a bar. They can actually get into something like Chi-Chi's. They can get into something like East of 8th. They can get into older queer spaces, particularly older, queer men of color spaces, but not in its entirety. You still have a very diverse population that enters into those spaces, but you definitely have the youth that don't have access to these spaces because of their age, or money, lack of money.
The problem with the West Village is that it's predominantly older people, and the young gays think it's not a place where they should hang out. I think that's, in my opinion, one of the things that's like kind of totally wrong with all the gays, just as a group of people. They really don't want to know their history, right. And this is the history right around here.
This is the village. The village goes through its eras. My mother's a lesbian. She could tell you stories about the village from 1980.
The pier definitely has changed. The pier has definitely changed. I know it was back then. It was more dangerous.
Cause like white men didn't have the railing.
Yeah, didn't have the railing.
It used to be like more turned down, like more broken up. Like it was very dangerous. Like it wasn't built like it is now. Like there was like loose metal. People had to climb just to get to the edge of the water. Like it was very dangerous. Like it was like, now it's like more structured. They build like all this fancy stuff, and now we could chill and stuff like that.
I would definitely say that cleaning up the pier is a way to sort of contain bodies of difference that are represented by queer youth and the queer community in general. It's like this problem that you don't want to address. There's a way in which, in trying to homogenize populations and erase difference, in order to make it more palatable to outside entities that are going to invest money, there is a pushing out of anything that's queer. The pier now has become this very family-friendly space with like the strollers, and it's like, yeah, there's this movement to try to how can we contain, these bodies of difference? How can we contain these sort of queer bodies and police them in very particular ways?
I mean, it seems like the city don't want us here, but they can't really get rid of us. Because this is where we at. This is where we hang out at. This is where we come. Oh my God, this is where we mostly come together and congregate. There's not no other place we come to.
This is what people consider a home base, Christopher Street. You know what I mean? So I think that this will never, there'll be dips and highs and lows, of course, like any other, but I think that this will, in New York, will be the heart of gay, the heart of gay. Welcome to the heart of gay. It's kind of stupid.
It's the village, mama. Welcome to New York.
How many boys are crazy? How many boys are